Welcome back, guys. So we are at it again, this time with the PocketGo S30, one of the most anticipated retro emulation devices of the year. And obviously, it looks very similar to a 8BitDo controller. I got one out here because I want to compare the quality of the D-pad, the buttons, and whatnot to this thing. But yeah, that's what it looks like it's going for here, other than got a big screen in the middle, right? Even the packaging is very reminiscent of what 8BitDo does. Here's the box. Might as well take a look. External micro SD cards for your games, headphone slot, save games. Battery life of 4 to 5 hours. That's 2,600 milliamp hour rechargeable lithium ion battery. 3.5-inch IPS screen that is 480 by 320 resolution. It says full screen original resolution display. That's going to be the, options there within the games themselves. Full screen brightness adjustment. And there we go. So let's get this thing out. I know a lot of people have been looking forward to this. It is currently selling for $60 on RetroMimi.com. I'll put a link in the description. They're the ones who sent this out to me for purpose of review. And man, that was a tight fit. But here we go. So this thing, it's not going to be the most powerful device in the world. The CPU here, we have a quad-core 1.2 gigahertz all-winner A33. The GPU is a Mali 400 MP2, 512 megabytes of RAM. And like I already said, we have that 2,600 milliamp hour battery. So there's the device. Let me check out everything else here. We got a maybe 6 to 8 inch USB-C charging cable. Doesn't look too bad. Very nice. And then see, the whole packaging's just like 8BitDo. Is 8BitDo involved with this? I don't know. I doubt it. Even their little manual is like the same color as like the 8BitDo controllers. There we go. Got some Chinese on one side, English on the other. So it actually tells you the specs down there. So there's that. Charging indicator, not really much going on with that. Doesn't tell you much at all. So let's just take a look at this thing, test out some games. But here we go, comparing it in size. It's a little bit bigger than this 8BitDo controller. Looks very similar, like the mold for the triggers seems to be very similar. D-pad smaller, buttons are smaller. Select start button smaller. We have Nintendo Switch style analog stick versus these. And this is a little bit heavier than this, but not by much, to be honest with you. Let me take a look here. So up here we got power, volume, our charge port underneath, some indicator lights, headphone jack, our micro SD card. What did they send with this thing? I know there's games already on here. 16 gigabyte SD card, micro SD. Right on the side right here, that little slit, that is the speaker. Okay. So actually, these don't feel as good as the 8BitDo, but they don't feel bad, but we'll test it out in the game. Our triggers, they look the same, like the same mold, but I just noticed when I press this, look at that, spreading that button apart. It looks like you could see right in the inside. I know these don't do that. And this has a very tactile, nice feel to it. This doesn't feel that great. It feels like I'm going to break these R2 and L2s off. Like, look at that. These don't feel as bad, but they don't feel the same as these. Yeah, they don't feel the same. These feel better. Everything on this feels better. I mean, just got to put it out there. The buttons are smaller. Everything's smaller here. Let's turn this on, just get straight to it. Test out some games, see what we got. PocketGo S30. So we got NES, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, MAME, another Game Boy Advance, just different emulator. Battery life indicator at the bottom. Neo Geo Pocket, PlayStation, Sega Mega Drive, PSP, Super Famicom, PC Engine, WonderSwan, and settings. So settings, just English or backlight. Now you can press start. Okay, we're on Dreamcast. There's some Dreamcast here. We hit start, goes to settings. Those are the only options you have on this, UI here. Final Burn Alpha, back to NES. So let's start testing a few things out. So here we go, some NES. I've already messed around a little bit with some of this stuff, and I noticed some of the built-in games they have for NES on here are PAL region, and they run like crap, to be honest with you. US region is fine. There are some settings you could tweak. Here's the volume up here. That one little speaker, it can get pretty loud. So here we go. Let me show you this real quick. We'll play through a few different systems, checking out games, give you guys my overall thoughts and impressions on this thing. But what I noticed playing Contra, nothing with screen tearing or any kind of weird issues. The sound is fine. But like I said, those PAL region games, they don't run very well. They're very choppy and screen tearing out the butt. So you can see here, it's NES. Bottom of the barrel as far as something that should run on a device like this. Love NES, but there shouldn't be any reason it doesn't run. So some systems you press select and start to get into the emulator options. Some you press the power button real quick, or some you can do either or. And you have some settings, some basic stuff, aspect ratio, that kind of thing. Because most of the games are just stretched out from the get-go. But then I noticed some systems you don't have as much in the way as emulator options as you do with something like NES here. So there's that. Let's keep it moving. Game Boy Color, or Game Boy anyway. Super Mario Land. Let's see, press power. Get some save state options. Show FPS. You got the scaler, full screen, 1.5 or none. And that's pretty much it there. Like these systems, we really shouldn't have any issue running them on this device. There's a little bit of shimmer here, but nothing too crazy or distracting. But Game Boy's going to run fine. MAME, we have a few games. Check out Final Fight. And from what I could tell, this screen, I think, is glass because it doesn't flex at all. I don't want to break it or nothing, but the screen, the viewing angles are okay. Not the best I've seen, but they're all right. Oh, there's some crackle in this audio for this game. Select and start doesn't do anything. Select inserts coins. Oh, I gotta turn that volume down. There's the speakers, like it sounds bad. So it may be per emulator. See what kind of options we have here. Hit and power. We don't have any options. That is lame. That speaker's, for this emulator, the sound is not great. The game seems to be running all right though, but the sound is not perfect at all. Okay, maybe this one works for Game Boy Advance. So there are no options for this emulator. The sound appears to be fine. Or okay, compared to that arcade game. So Game Boy Advance is all right. No complaints with Game Boy Advance. Other than that, we have no options to mess with video or any kind of emulation settings. Neo Geo Pocket. They got, looks like Match of the Millennium. Do we have options? You hit power, it takes you back. So that's confusing. There are no options. Hitting select and start does nothing. So that's kind of lame. So the aspect ratio is not good for this game. We need an original option. It's stretched out a little bit. But I mean, this is another one. It should emulate fine. But yeah, we don't have any settings here. So hopefully we get some custom firmware and get a different setup on this. Because right now I'm not really digging the way they have this set up. Oh my God, another Capcom So Capcom versus SNK for PlayStation. Let's let that boot up. So here we go. Let's see how this D-pad performs. The buttons, I mean, they're smaller than what's on the 8BitDo controller, but they don't feel too bad. It's just kind of, it's a little cramped. It's a little cramped. The D-pad's a little stiff, but still able to do some basic moves here. But I keep hitting the analog with my thumb using the D-pad. Let's try to use the analog this time. So, I mean, PlayStation should, for the most part, run fine on this device. I think it's just, there's going to be some games that you may find a little more demanding that have issues, but stuff like 2D fighters and some basic 3D games should be fine on this. This seems to be fine. Let me see if we have any options. Not by that. Hitting power, we get in there. And we've got a bunch of basic stuff. A lot more options here than we do with a lot of the other emulators. So let's move on. Seems to be performing well. It's running good. Not really seeing any graphics issues or sound issues. Theo! Okay, the buttons are all wonky. PSP is going to be one of those ones that it's going to be kind of hit and miss as well. Tons of different options here. But I mean, it's not surprising that Metal Slug appears to be running fine. Audio may not be 100%, but it's close. Little pops. Little audio pops. PC Engine. Let's check out R-Type. Not seeing any crazy shimmer down there. When you go up and down, a little bit of shimmer. This game's known for that. I think the TurboGrafx Mini, the shimmer was worse than it is on this. But most won't even notice it. It's just the weird resolution this game has, from what I understand. We'll end with Dreamcast. So they put Sonic Adventure 2 on here, which is one that usually runs decently well on a lot of these little handheld devices. But with the power of this one, I'm not 100%. Dreamcast is always hit and miss. Some games run really well, some do not. Oh yeah, the audio is really horrible, and the game's running a lot slower than a lot of other similar devices. Yeah. Not running as smooth, my friends. And maybe some Dreamcast games that are alright, but to me, this is not playable. The audio's boo-boo. It's kind of sputtering along a little bit. We got Third Strike. Let's check that out while I'm talking on my impressions here. So I don't think the buttons and D-pad are horrible. They're just not as good as what is on an actual 8BitDo controller that this is trying to mimic. I don't like that. The quality is like, it seems okay, but then there's just certain little things. You know, hopefully we get a custom firmware that gets things running smoother with some optimized emulators and whatnot. Yeah, we got no options here either. Hopefully the buttons are fine. A little bit of audio popping. Yeah, we got some frame skipping going. This ain't smooth. And the punches are on the bottom. Oh my god, and you can't change that? Like, we don't have options to. That's garbage, dude. So a lot of this stuff, it's gonna have to evolve over time, because some of this stuff should be performing better than it does. But with this being a fairly weaker system compared to some of the newer stuff out there, you're not gonna get every single thing on this. But the form factor, it's comfortable. It's fine. I mean, hitting that D-pad and analog stick next to each other is not the greatest. But I mean, I think a lot of people are gonna buy this off of aesthetics alone. But for me, I mean, the price point, you know, the $60 price point, I don't think is horrible. But it's, you know, it is what it is. This is definitely not what I was hoping for, but somebody will be able to fix some of those issues and get, you know, this thing running decently well for the things that it should be able to run well, and to be able to give us the actual options for everything, aspect ratio for everything, button remapping, because some of that stuff, man, you can't play fighting games with the buttons all over the place. It just doesn't make any sense. So, while I like this, there's just those few little things, man, that I don't like about it that could be fixed over time. But there you go. That's my impressions. I think it's all right, but it's not necessarily a step in the right direction as far as power goes. I think the form factor is nice, but overall, the emulation I've seen quite a bit better in a similar price range. So those are my thoughts. Take them or leave them. But really do appreciate you guys hanging out. And with that said, I will catch y'all next time. Peace out. Bye-bye. And let me know what else you want to see. I'll do a follow-up. And boom. Bye.